Hey there everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another weekly update on the things going on in DCS world. I'm your host, Prickly Hedgehog. Join me now as we look at this week's newsletter, which is all about the Hornet and all about the Viper. So let's begin with the Viper, which I know a lot of you are very excited about and hoping for more work on that particular module. So we'll start with 9 things here that they are working on in terms of new features for the Viper. This is part of the features roadmap. 9 different things. We'll start with number 1, which is to complete the lightning targeting pod. Number 2, the AGM-65D, GHK and L variants of the Maverick. Flight model and flight control system tuning, harm and targeting system, air-to-ground missile 88C, harm, POS, and HAS modes. Complete air-to-air radar, DTT SAM mode, bullseye, intercept, steering cue, ACM slew, velocity search with range. Number 7 is going to be landing and takeoff handling tuning. Number 8 is integration of the JHMCS with the harm targeting system, Link 16, air-to-ground mode, and AIFF. And then number 9 is the Sniper XR targeting pod. So, over the course of this week, of course, you would have noticed that the targeting pod received some updates for both aircraft, and there was a video from Wags on that, which was also replayed through the Eagle Dynamics website as well, of course. I think Wags always gets his one out slightly quicker, but nevertheless, the video is available on both sites. You need to be quiet over there. Nobody asked your opinion. So let's have a look at what they're talking about here. So the F-16 Viper TGP, or targeting pod updates for the open beta release, you can expect to find the following enhancements: coordinates, north arrow, meter stick, cursor 0 or CZ, as they say in the States, or CZ if you are from another part of the world, targeting pod and laser ranging, automatic gain control, or AGC, snowplow mode, grayscale, steering indicator, steer point distance, time to release, and time to impact indicator, jolly good, laser code indicator, updated HOTAS commands, which I think was showcased by Wags, and a corrected steer point slew. In addition, the F-16 Viper updates are going to include the flag patch on the pilot now appears correctly in the mirrors. Nice little immersion detail there. The tank material has been edited. The external model has been improved again. I haven't had a chance to check yet. Moving on to the Hornet. The targeting pod updates. Remember that the Hornet, of course, is much further along in its development stages, so not quite as comprehensive a list. FA-18C Hornet TGP updates include the north arrow and the meter stick, and the general updates for the Hornet. The engine has received a sound update. This is a WIP, or work in progress. Major external sounds update, sound phaser bug fix, INS switch initialization, trying to say initialization, and of course my eyes were reading initialized, so that's why that went haywire, apologies. So INS switch initialized, then IFA at hot start if a GPS is available. Laser code on the SMS main page with guns selected created a conflict. AIM-120 bug is fixed, but a similar issue still exists with the AIM-120 mid-course updates stop if the LNS is stepped to a different track file, not the DT2. Okay, so that's some jiggery pokery in the background there, causing a conflict/bug. And that's pretty much this week's updates, not as comprehensive. Now remember, this is all part of the Eagle Dynamics team's focus on bug squashing, and you would have heard on Growling Sidewinder's interview last week from Nick Gray, the CEO, that in fact they are working very hard to squash bugs rather than push out major updates that haven't been tested properly. So in other words, there's a development phase for a couple of weeks, then there is a testing phase, and then there is an update, so that there isn't this long delay between their ability to test and review and bug squash what they have been working on, which has led in the past to major problems and obviously a lot of grumblings from the community. members like yourselves. And I know, yes, based on some previous comments, there's still a lot of you out there that are unhappy. A lot of you had quite a few comments about various third-party developers and whether or not those planes would be ready on time and yada yada yada. But anyway, the broad thrust here is that Eagle Dynamics is working very hard to squash the bugs, and obviously we applaud them for that because it is making the game more stable. One of the things I noticed Nick Gray also mentioned was that in the past, open beta would get all of the love and attention, and a lot of people were playing open beta over the stable version because there really wasn't a benefit if you wanted all the eye candy and certainly any of the new features such as modules. You had to play open beta or would need to, and so unfortunately the stable version was often a long way behind where the open beta was. And I would often, when I put videos up, people would ask, well, where do I find that? And again, the answer would be, well, it's only available in the open beta. Now, for a lot of people this was a real challenge because downloading 2 versions of the game takes up a lot of space on a computer's hard drive or solid state drive, whatever you're running, or a combination of those things. Not everybody can do that. It also was killing some people's bandwidth if you were limited to downloads, those kinds of things. So basically they're not going to leave the stable version languishing quite so much. It's not going to be quite as far behind where the open beta is, and they can do that now if they squash more of the bugs in the open beta. So that's good news, I think, overall. Now, obviously, some people will still be unhappy, and there will always be people that have some things to say about that, and I get that. I know that the game is not perfect, and we've still got a long way to go. There is still a lot of work to do and some people rightly pointed out that, as I mentioned last week, with the development of a dynamic campaign, that unless we rectify the issues that we have with the software that the game uses not interacting or taking advantage of the horsepower of modern computer architecture, then some of this stuff is not going to bear much fruit, which again I think is a reasonable comment, and I'm fully aware, based on the comments and the various interviews that we've had over the last few weeks, that Eagle Dynamics is working on that. Saw a little quip in another forum that I'm involved with. One of the developers from Heatblur was talking about working on a lot of bug squashing right now as well, so I know people have been asking about the Tomcat A variant rather than the B Bombcat that we have right now. So, it's all very interesting stuff, and good stuff, obviously, but it never comes soon enough, and everybody wants the product yesterday, and so on and so forth. It's going to be very interesting. Next week, of course, we have Microsoft 2020 coming out, and I can't wait to get my hands on that just to do a side-by-side comparison, because some of the videos that I've seen have been a little more, I don't want to say mediocre because that's not correct, but they haven't been quite as spectacular and salacious as some of the early footage that I had seen from Microsoft 2020. So I think as more people get access to the game and different people are running more average systems for the average gamer, if you like, for the average computer user, then some of the imagery that we're seeing is perhaps not as over the top or as beautiful as perhaps some other people may be running with very, very high-end systems running the game at full spec. So it'll be interesting to see as the game comes out, what it's going to be like on my own system as compared to DCS, because I think that DCS is actually going to compete visually fairly well in some areas. Obviously, it's not going to have the realism of real-world modeling that Microsoft 2020 has, but eye candy wise, I think they actually do a fairly good job outside of sort of volumetric clouds and realistic weather and some of those other very sophisticated things that Microsoft has developed. But then, as Nick Gray pointed out, remember too that in terms of studio size and resources, Microsoft 2020 has almost like an open checkbook, and DCS has very limited amounts of resources. Given that, they actually do a pretty decent job. So it's easy to be critical sitting from the sidelines and the cheap seats, throwing peanuts and abuse at the developers of Eagle Dynamics, and I don't always think that's entirely fair when you consider the amount of detail that they are building into some of the aircraft that we have. You've got to admit, you've got to at least give some credence to the fact that and credibility to their products, because they do go into quite a lot of detail, and the aircraft do perform quite realistically. I heard, if you haven't seen CW Lemoyne's wonderful interview with the former F-18 and F-14D pilot, his call sign is Oral, and he pointed out, Hebler's F-14 is pretty realistic, and obviously there's a lot of things they can't model. Naturally, no physics, you're not actually sitting in a cockpit, of course. There's all sorts of things that aren't realistic, but in terms of simulating the flight experience, as he pointed out, it's fairly realistic. So, when you have that kind of comment from a real pilot, again, it leads credibility to the value of the product that we have. So, all right, I think that'll do for this week's video. Just a very short one there. I did throw up some little images from Razbam, and not many of you noticed that just towards the end of last week's video. Some more work being done on that F-15E, and also some Air Mackie jets and some other bits and pieces, some other little teasing tantalizers, if you like, from Razbam. Continues to do it, which I enjoy. So I'll throw up some more here as well for you to drool over, because some stuff is looking pretty good, gotta say. I know a lot of you have kind of trash talked Razbam, but yeah, I hand it to him. That Harrier is pretty well modeled. I mean, when you consider the difficulty that they would have had to model the nozzles and all the other weapon systems and things, it's pretty layered aircraft, I have to say. It's a pretty decent rendition. And yeah, so nothing to snort at, and there's some interesting stuff coming out of that studio. And I was advised by one of the developers they've actually grown their team. They're actually at about 20 right now, so they're not exactly a tiny studio. Sure, again, they're smaller than Eagle Dynamics, and obviously smaller than Microsoft, but that's a given. So again, nothing to be snorted at here. So, all right. Give me your thoughts below. Hope you've had a great week. I've been very, very busy, haven't had very much flying time. I restrung my guitar. I had to play some guitar and do some stuff like that. This week I'm taking off to do some stuff around the house before the winter hits. And my wife goes back to work full-time and all that kind of stuff. So, life. It's busy and a little bit crazy right now. So I hope you're doing well. Like I said, stay flying out there. Take care. It's good to have all the feedback. I really enjoy it. And don't forget to like and subscribe. It keeps the channel chugging along. This is Prickly Hedgehog out for another week. We'll see you around. Looking forward to all the comments. Cheers, guys.